What's going on? This is Big G from G Riders and welcome to another episode of Tested Rides. Today, I'm going to be testing out the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace Prestige 30T. Welcome to the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace. Introduced for the 2017 model year, the F-Pace was a long overdue SUV for Jaguar's lineup. And to be simply honest, if this SUV was not made, Jaguar would have been dead in the water. But they kind of saw where the market was going, and so they decided to make an SUV. So this is the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace, and the F-Pace comes with four different engine options and 5 different power outputs. And they kind of have like their numbering system on the back. So the base model is the 25T, and that is the lower horsepower. That is a lower horsepower 4-cylinder gasoline engine. And then there is the 20D, which is the diesel model. This one is the 30T, so this has the higher of the horsepower from the 4-cylinder turbos. And then also the S, which makes 380 horsepower out of a supercharged V6, and the SVR that's coming soon, or out now or coming soon, making 550 horsepower, and that has the supercharged V8, which is a very cool model. So this one is the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace Prestige 30T. So this one has 296 horsepower and 295 foot-pounds of torque. But surprisingly, this vehicle, even though it's technically like it's a luxury crossover, this car only weighs about 3,800 pounds, which is not too bad for a car this size, especially with this type of power. This thing definitely feels pretty quick because of that kind of lower weight, because most of the crossovers in this car class weigh 4,000 or over 4,000 pounds. So I think that's really cool, this one weighing 3,800 pounds. So with that decent weight, but this does also make more power. It only gets about 22 in the city and 27 on the highway, which is about average for most 4-cylinder turbo and 4-cylinder crossovers nowadays. They still kind of haven't figured out how to get over the 30 mark, which is fine, but it'd be nice to see some cars over the 30 mark in this car class. So this one, everything about this is middle of the road. So this is not the base model. This does not have the base engine output. So this one starts at about $55,000. The only option that this model has on it is the smartphone connectivity package that gives you Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I really appreciate, because a lot of times with these stock infotainment systems, you know, I just want to be able to connect my phone up with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and just call it good. And I'm glad they're giving you that. And it's only a $300 option. So this car is about $56,000 or so. So $56,000 isn't that bad for a car like one of the most unique crossovers kind of in this market. Even though it's kind of a you know, the crossover, everybody's making a crossover nowadays. I think this is one of the more unique ones that you don't see as often as you see as like the BMW X3 and the Audi Q5 and the Volvo XC60 and all those type of models. So let's go ahead and take a look at the interior of the vehicle, see what the inside's looking like. Welcome to the interior of the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace Prestige. So when you first hop into the 2019 Jaguar Prestige, the first thing you notice that this interior looks and feels very nice. Like everything is leather covered. There's not too many cheap plastics. I mean, everything's nice and soft and feels pretty cool. Up here where I rest my arm, it's nice and soft. The steering wheel feels really nice in the hands. The paddle shifters feel kind of cheap though, but that's with a lot of crossovers like that. They kind of like go with the cheaper feeling paddle shifters. But what I kind of was surprised by, this like kind of suede cloth headliner. It looks so good. It feels so nice to the hands. But it's something that you're never really gonna touch, but it still feels and looks really nice. The center stack here is pretty nice. I think everything is laid out pretty well. The push button is I like where the push button is. I think the volume knob is a little too far away. They should have put it kind of closer over here somewhere, because I felt myself having to reach for it. I mean, I know you can use the steering wheel controls, but it's kind of nice. It'll be nice to have everything kind of within more reach. I never really understood the point of this little space here, because this is like right in front of the shifter. Like I think like a wireless charger or something can go here, but this like size, it's like smaller than most phones are nowadays. So if they're gonna do something different with this little section up here in the front, I feel like they should I feel like it should do something different with this little section up here in the front. Just to be honest, I think that it could be a cool place for a wireless charger if a regular size phone could fit in there. The whole entire like center console though is laid out pretty nicely. There's not too many buttons, not too complicated, and I kind of like how the dash I like the design of it. It's really simple and basic, and I like on this one, and kind of I think from a 2018 on, I believe, all of them come with the bigger, wider screen for the most part, which I like, because that little tiny screen with the stupid buttons on the side look really old and dated. Alright, so let's go ahead and fire it up and see how everything comes into life. Alright, so the Jag is now fired up in life. I like how the knob pops up when you start the car up, and it kind of shows Jaguar on the screen there. I think it looks pretty good. Check to tap continue. The infotainment system in the Jaguar Land Rover products have gotten way better. So back when I reviewed the I think I believe it was a 2017 Jaguar XE, that infotainment kind of sucked compared to this. This infotainment is really nice. It works pretty fast, pretty good. Has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and has a lot of different options for things like, you know. I wish the heated seat controls were on the actual. There were hard buttons for the heated seat controls instead of me having to go into the screen to do that. But that's my only like gripe with the infotainment. Like, you got a button for the backup camera there. I think that's pretty cool. Just go back home. Everything's pretty simple to use and connect. Like, most of the time, if you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you just gotta hop in the car and just directly connect to the Apple CarPlay. For the most part, like if you're going. For most people that have like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto in the car, they don't even care about the infotainment system. They just literally get in, connect their phone, and call it a day. And that's exactly what I did, and it's really easy, and it works really well. I do wish the model I'm testing here had the kind of the digital display in there, but you know, I couldn't get a higher model of the Jaguar. So, you know, the interior of the F-Pace is set up really nice. It looks really nice. It's pretty comfortable. The seats are pretty comfortable. They look really nice. They feel like it's high quality, and I do like the interior a lot of this car. One couple things I wish they would change. I wish they'd do the digital kind of display kind of as a standard feature, just because like this vehicle isn't cheap, and it'd be nice to kind of get it on like the Prestige model, which this one is at above. And also, really good thing is the sound system in this thing. This sound system is bumped. This has the 425 watt, I believe, Meridian sound system, and this is not even the upgraded sound system, and it's pretty amazing. So, you know, with that said, I'm not really gonna show all that, but the back seat is decently sized. It's not big, it's not small. This is like an X3 or a Q5 or something like that. So like those SUVs doesn't necessarily have the biggest back seats ever because they're technically compact luxury crossovers. But it's a pretty practical SUV. So like, I mean, I'm not gonna show it too much here. So with that said, let's go ahead and hop on the road and see how this thing handles and drives. Welcome to the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace 30T Prestige driving portion. So the first thing you hop on the road is, the first thing that you notice when you hop on the road in the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace is how smooth it is. So I kind of started this review kind of already rolling, going along, and this thing is so smooth and quiet on the road. There's not that much wind noise. Like, you know, you can talk in a low voice to your passengers, and you know, it's just a very nice, luxurious experience. Which honestly, for $56,000, it should be. But I'm just very glad that it's giving that type of experience for that type of price point. But this thing drives amazing. Since this car is based on it's on a rear-wheel drive bias platform, this thing handles incredibly well around corners. You can throw this thing around, and sometimes you kind of semi-forget it is a crossover. It becomes more hot hatchy than crossover, which is pretty cool for a, you know, basically like a family crossover to do that. And also, since this one has 300 horsepower, it is decently quick. So when you mash the throttle, this thing like pulls and pulls and pulls all the way up until red line, which is kind of uncharacteristic like for a four-cylinder turbo motored car. And it's really cool how Jaguar has kind of stretched, like basically the power band is pretty nice. That torque curve, it looks pretty nice on this vehicle. So the steering response is decent. It's not very numb, but it's not like the most engaging ever. It's honestly better steering response than you would find in like a new Golf GTI, where the new Golf GTI's like steering is quite numb. But it's like almost, it's it's pretty similar to like Mazda style steering, which is it's a pretty big compliment, because Mazda has very good steering for like normal vehicles. One thing, like, and you know, also there's like the simple fact that there's very good visibility out of the windshield, out of all the windows. The dash sits a little bit lower, and I like how the dash sits a little bit lower, so you can kind of see each corner of the car, so you can kind of place it on the road a little bit easier. And I also do like this big panoramic sunroof up above me here. And the sitting position is really nice in here, and everything seems to be thought out and laid out pretty well when driving. One thing for me is I feel like the roof line is sloped quite a bit, and I don't have as much headroom as I think I should. But that's only a feeling. That's only a feeling that I have when I drive the vehicle. But remember, I'm 6 feet tall and over 350 pounds, so I'm a big dude. But the interior of this car is extremely comfortable, and I would say, like, if you're a big dude, if you're a big dude, big girl, you'll be pretty comfortable in this car. It's definitely not the biggest and roomiest car in the world, but it's definitely pretty comfortable for me. So, a couple complaints about this car. So, and it has nothing to do with the way it drives. So this car is $55,000, and it does have like pretty good, like, it has like accident avoidance and lane keep assist and everything like that. But at 55 grand, there's no blind spot monitoring, and I think that's more than ridiculous. How can a car that's almost $60,000 and has heated steering wheel and a bunch of other crazy stuff not have blind spot monitoring in 2019? I think that's a bit ridiculous, and I think that's just kind of a luxury brand being kind of petty with the equipment packages that you get on the car. I think that's just straight ridiculous. But it's not the end of the world. I just think that a car of this price point and of this kind of this level should have that at least on here as an option with this mid-range model. And also, too, for me, I don't think this car gets the best gas mileage. Granted, I have been kind of driving it hard, but when I am driving it easy, it still is not getting kind of the gas mileage that it says it gets. Like, I was just driving there going, you know, 65, not even 65 miles an hour, like 60 miles an hour, and I was only getting like 23 miles to the gallon, which is a little bit ridiculous. And I think that fuel economy is not, it says it's supposed to get 27, and it gets nowhere near that. And I think that, come on guys, do better. But again, not a big deal breaker. It gets about the average gas mileage that crossovers are, so kind of that most crossovers get in this car class, which it's not that big of a deal. Like I said before, it'd be nice for some of these to start cracking 30 miles to the gallon without like having to get like a diesel version or anything like that. Jaguar F-Pace is a very comfortable and very easy car to drive. Like, there's like nothing hard about this car. Like, the throttle response is pretty decent. The brake feel is pretty nice. The transmission is pretty smooth. I don't really notice the transmission at all when driving it. Like, only time I notice the transmission is when I kick it over into sport mode and use the paddles. The transmission upshifts, downshifts pretty efficiently, pretty quickly, and there's just like nothing bad about this vehicle. But I did see a couple like small kind of like quality issues with this model here. So this one has almost 4,000 miles on it, so about 3,900 miles on it, and on the roof, kind of where the roof rack should go, that this one does not have, the top is peeling up a little bit. So I think that's kind of like a little unacceptable for a car with that low miles to have on it. But again, this crossover has kind of this crossover kind of for that compact luxury car class has kind of a lot of character for kind of a crossover that's supposed to be kind of just a soulless vehicle. And I think that's what kind of makes the Jaguar F-Pace more unique than the other crossovers that are in this class. Yes, I've driven all of them actually. I've driven all of them except the Alfa Romero, and they all drive nice, but I think there's just something special feeling about this one. And if there were my money and I was looking at getting a crossover in this market, this would be definitely the one that I would buy. But I would probably buy the S model with a supercharged V6 with 380 horsepower, especially the fact that this one is almost $60,000. You might as well go up to the $62,000 price point and get the one with basically with 80 more horsepower and like the different sound. But I love this. I love the Jaguar F-Pace. It's comfortable, it's fun to drive, it's beautiful. There's no bad angles on this car. It's easy to see out of, it's easy to drive, and when you want to have fun, it is pretty decently sporty. So I definitely think that if you're in the market for a compact size luxury SUV, you should definitely take a look at the 2019 Jaguar F-Pace. And if you like this video, hit me with a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, keep riding me. Thanks.